Well, that was something. Yeah, that was certainly something. Sorry if you guys can hear music in the background. One of my housemates is a musician. Good for him. But yeah, I just finished watching Twilight of the Gods, and there were parts that were really cool. There was some really awesome stuff in it. There was also some weird stuff in it. And there was some stuff that made no sense at all. So, yeah, I mean, overall, I'd say people can certainly have fun with this show. I'm not sure what the general consensus is. I try to get on these shows as quick as I can without, like, looking up a bunch of stuff beforehand. But yeah, I'll do no spoilers first, then I'll give you a warning before I go into spoilers. But this show is Norse mythology, created by Zack Snyder. Zack, that guy's really good at certain things and bad at other things. Like, usually his action is really good, his style is really good, but his storylines are not very good. But this show, so I think it looks very nice, honestly. The animation, I don't know if it's going to please everybody, but for me, it was very reminiscent of Samurai Jack. I don't know if Genndy Tartakovsky had anything to do with this show. I should look that up, but I liked that. I loved Samurai Jack growing up, so to see a show that has a familiar style is very welcome. I thought the action was very fun to see. It moved very nicely. Also, a lot of the designs have these lines that are a little similar to Scandinavian art, so that's pretty cool too. So I don't really have any issues with how the show looks. And yeah, there is a good amount of action. Another thing this show has a good amount of is horniness. This is a very, very horny show with sex scenes that happen for no reason. You could take out every single sex scene in the show and it wouldn't matter. I don't know why they're in there. I don't know if Zack is going through something. Like, I'm not a prude or anything, I just don't see the point. There's so many penises in this show. We get to see Thor's penis, we get to see the main character's penis, we get to see some Ulfednar penis. They make a point to point out how big the main character's penis is. It's like, okay, can we get back to the show? Jesus Christ. But yeah, the overall premise is it's a revenge story. A certain someone wants revenge on Thor for something, and at the same time, Loki is trying to alter the events of Ragnarok. It's like the prophecy of Ragnarok is in this, but Loki is trying to make it happen differently for reasons that are revealed later. And when it was revealed, I was like, oh, that's actually kind of an interesting character trait to give Loki. I actually really liked how Loki was done in this. I liked his design, I liked his voice, I liked his character. I think Loki fans are going to be pretty happy with that. They even tie into a little bit of, maybe I'm reading too deep into it, but they tie a little bit into his satanic roots, because for those who don't know, Loki was a character originally, but then when Christianity spread through the Norselands, he was made a little more like Satan because he was considered similar to Satan, with the whole God who is blamed for all the evil in the world or all the lies in the world. They do that with Loki here. So I feel like they were kind of doing the Satan-y stuff, but maybe I'm wrong. So yeah, we got our two leads, Leif and Sigrid. Sigrid is this badass female warrior. Leif is the man who loves her, and he shouts Sigrid about 700 times throughout the show. You could play a drinking game, it'll be fun. You know, I think Sigrid might be partially inspired by the Valkyrie Sigrun, who you might recognize from the God of War games, because in Norse mythology, Sigrun is a character who had a very tragic love story, and her entire family ended up dying because of it. And so, you know, if you watch this show, you might see some parallels there. So I have a feeling there might have been some inspiration there. Oh, also, the Valkyries are all completely naked in this show for some reason. I mean, I guess there's nothing saying they aren't completely naked. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I'm going to do an inaccuracy video for this show at some point, and then I'll get the more definitive facts for that. But yeah, it's Very, very horny show. There's even like jiggle physics at times. Like you see a Valkyrie flying and the nipples are going up and down. I'm like, oh boy, what am I watching? So also one thing I kind of had a problem with in this show was Thor a little bit. Now this is definitely the more frat boyish, bloodthirsty Thor, and I don't have a problem with that. The problem is, I didn't consider him to be intimidating. Now, what they make him able to do is intimidating. They make him huge. They make him able to, like, literally become a living storm. In a lot of ways, that's all really cool. But his voice and the way he talks, and the fact that he walks around almost completely naked, all just felt kind of silly to me. Like, he's walking around going, pretty much all the time, and I'm like, I don't find that intimidating. You just seem stupid. And I know Thor's not supposed to be the smartest guy in the world, but I thought Thor in God of War Ragnarok captured that sort of, not super smartness and sort of barbaricness, and yet he still seemed very intimidating and very imposing. The Thor here, I feel like, is just all the time. I didn't really see a lot of character there or a lot of intimidation there. As opposed to Odin, who I thought was actually done really well, and I'll get into that further in spoilers. There are a lot of cool, though, references to Norse mythology, which show that at least some level of research was done. There's stuff like when Andvari appears, he's in the form of a fish. If you know the myth, you know why that would be. Sif actually having her golden hair and having a throne made out of wheat. Again, you know her character, you know why that would. Thor has his goat chariot in this story. They mention the Aesir Vanir War. They mention bride prices. There's Alfednar in the show. There's Jotuns who aren't enormous. Though they kind of have a reasoning for that, and when they did, like they say one character who's a Jotun isn't big because she's only half Jotun, and I was like, you don't need to say that. Not all the Jotuns are big. You could have just done that. So I don't know if that was well-researched or poorly researched. So yeah. They've actually not completely, but they've changed certain things with characters like Fafnir. There are certain inaccuracies in the show, which again, I can easily point out in an inaccuracy video. I've got notes in my hand. I'm trying to see if there's anything else I can mention without spoilers. That's a spoiler. That's a spoiler. There's also there's this episode, I think it's the 6th episode, called Hear Of, where the characters are just telling stories. And at first I kind of liked it because the first 2 stories were like actual Norse myths. But as it kept going on, first of all, it stopped being actual Norse myths and started just being original stuff, which I really didn't care about. And second, it just felt kind of ridiculous for the whole episode to be that stuff. I actually like the idea of a whole episode being around characters and what the characters are doing the night before a big battle. And telling stories is a cool part of that, but again, the episode just, I felt like by the 3rd story or by the 4th story, I was just like, I don't care about these stories anymore. And it's another extremely horny episode with stuff that happens throughout it. I just completely lost interest, and I was like, okay, get on with it. I want to get to that battle you guys are resting up for. Come on. And it doesn't help that then the 7th episode opens with this freaking pop song, which sounds terrible. I absolutely hated it. Like, what is this crap doing in a Norse mythology show? Jesus Christ. So I don't know what was going on there. But, yeah, so overall, the show is an original story taking place in Norse mythology where they're trying to alter the events of Ragnarok. There's some really cool action in it. There's some really cool designs in it. Villain could be a little more intimidating, and the show is very overly horny, if that stuff matters to you. So, yeah, I think that's the main extent of what I have to say without spoilers. It's, the show's fine, I think. I didn't think it was bad overall, but I didn't think it was great overall either. I just think it's fine. They clearly set up for there to be a season 2, and the way they set it up made no sense at all, and I'll get into that in spoilers. But yeah, you can tell me what you thought of the show, and it's spoiler time. 3, 2, 1, spoilers! Okay, so... yeah, the main character, her entire family gets slaughtered by Thor, and it's a good setup because now I'm invested. I'm like, oh yeah, kill Thor. Let's go. Let's do it. But then, you know, what's funny is the first episode I actually do think is really good because it sets everything up really well, even though they do have that thing where they constantly harp on the guy's penis, and I'm like, you don't need to do that, but okay. And then they literally show you the penis. It's like, I believed you, you didn't have to show it to me. I don't know, it's a me thing. But maybe some people loved seeing that penis. Episode 2 then basically turns into a freaking heist movie. You know, if you've seen that Rick and Morty episode, and they're going around talking to different people like, you son of a bitch, I'm in, what's the job? That's just what they do for like several different people. Though I do like that they recruit an Ulfhednar, they recruit a witch, they recruit a guy who's learning runic magic. That's pretty cool. That's all pretty cool. You know, it's always a berserker in, like, tales like this. I'm glad to see an Ulfhednar for once. Like, in Magnus Chase, like, a member of the team's a berserker. And I like berserkers, don't get me wrong, but I like to see, like, Ulfhednar, too. I feel like the only other place I've seen them really properly utilized are in the book Marauder and in the movie The Northman. Yeah, so, yeah, they recruit all these people to kill gods, and then they go to Andvari's workshop. And it's funny because they go there because it's like you specifically need god-killing iron, even though there's a ton of stuff that can kill gods in Norse mythology. I mean, if gods could only be killed by this iron, Frigg wouldn't need to go around asking everything in the world never to hurt Balder. Clearly everything in the world can hurt the gods, which I'll talk about in an accuracy video. Oh, and on that note, this is another show that makes Frigg and Freya the same goddess, so... if you don't like that, you're probably going to get annoyed by it here, but it's not technically wrong. It is something people theorize. Like, there seems to be strong evidence that Frigg and Freya were originally meant to be the same goddess, just like how Fenrir and Garm were originally the same character, so sure. But yeah, so they need to go to this Andvari guy who, like, makes god-killing weapons, and he says each one of these weapons will take your soul if you use it. They'll also instantly kill you if you even hesitate for a second about what you're going to do with them. And everyone just grabs them like, yeah, fuck it, fuck my soul, I don't need a soul. It's like, alright. But what's amazing about that is there are several times where characters hesitate or second guess what they're doing, especially Leif. And it's like, shouldn't he be incinerated then? I thought there was going to be a reveal that Andvari lied about that just to make sure everyone was going to be focused on what they did. But I mean, as far as I know, that didn't happen. And it especially doesn't make sense at the friggin' ending of the show, because one of the characters gets killed, and so then Sigrid is like, all right, come on, take her to Valhalla. She died in battle, and then she's told, nope, can't go to Valhalla because of the cursed weapon. You know, if you use that weapon that takes your soul, you can never go to Valhalla. Though they keep calling it heaven instead of Valhalla, which is a little annoying. And so then later Sigrid gets killed by Loki, and he says, yes, now you'll die here on the field of battle so you can go to Valhalla. And it's like, there's 3 different reasons you shouldn't be going to Valhalla. First of all, you didn't die in battle. You just got stabbed by Loki randomly. Second, you weren't holding a weapon when you died. And third, you have been using this cursed weapon, which takes your soul. You shouldn't be able to get into Valhalla. Same reason as your friend, I would think. They literally just said, if you do this, you can't get in, and then immediately after they break their own rules. Can someone explain that to me? Is it just because she wasn't holding the cursed weapon? That seems like a cop-out. It's ridiculous. Oh, I forgot to mention this. Jormungandr in this show is a humanoid girl for some reason, and I swear it's literally just so they can have another horny scene. Like, Jormungandr fucks Thor in this show, and it's so goddamn weird. And it's explained that the reason she fucks Thor is to entwine their destinies for Ragnarok. It's like, okay, you're really reaching there. You don't need to do that. There's already a prophecy. Does the prophecy specify that this will only happen if you guys fuck first? It's so stupid. So incredibly stupid. I don't know what the hell was going on there. Somebody on this team is just so incredibly horny and demanding that their, fanfics happen. Like, I really want Thor and Jormungandr to fuck. Why? I have no idea. It's absolutely ridiculous. I really like the creative designs of the Vanir. There's a lot of creativity going on there, and they're riding all sorts of giant animals. That's cool. The Jotuns, when they show up, some of them have multiple heads, which is straight out of Norse mythology. A lot of people don't know there are multi-headed Jotuns. There's like the 6-headed Jotun Thrudgelmir. There's Tyr's 900-headed Grammon. I'm glad to finally see that being used a little bit. So that's cool. There's a scene where the characters are trying to get away from the Vanir, and Leif smashes the side of the door so that it'll cave in, and he has plenty of time to jump out, but he doesn't. He just stands there like an idiot in order to get captured. It's kind of ridiculous. Oh, they also completely change the Honir character. Honir was killed by the Vanir in Norse mythology because they believe they had been cheated by being given him as a trade. And so in this show they change it to they were cheated in the trade. Odin gives them Honir and immediately brain damages him, and then they just use his head as a way to drive people mad. It's weird because the head thing would have tied in better to Mimir if you think about it, and Mimir and Honir were given to the Vanir together, so you would think they would utilize that in some way. But no, they changed a lot of stuff up. More things to point out in a future inaccuracy vid. Yeah, I was really, throughout the second half of this show, thinking, oh, that'll be good for an inaccuracy vid. This is how my brain works. Yeah, they've both changed Fafnir and kept some stuff true to the story. You can tell Fafnir is breathing toxic fumes in the show, but even then they don't toxify anything. Like, there's a scene where a character literally blocks his toxic fumes. You would think they would still get poisoned. He's also guarding the orchard of Idun's apples. His toxicity should destroy that whole orchard. Also, they say he was friends with Fafnir and Andvari back in the day. That's not in the myths. Their story is, they do both appear in the same story, but not as friends. They don't even encounter each other. They give Fafnir wings, which, yeah, he's typically not said to have wings, and yeah. It honestly would have been cool if Sigurd joined their group. Then for the fighting Fafnir scene, it would have been more fitting, but didn't do that. I think all of these characters are original characters except Andvari in the main group. There's a scene where Loki is told, "How dare you breed with giants," by Thor. "How dare you breed with giants? You're not allowed to breed with giants. That's sick. You're going to be punished for it." It's like, bro, the Aesir breed with giants all the frackin' time. Odin has bred with 80 giants. Thor's mother is a giant. What the hell? There's also an episode where a member of the group, like the poet or whatever, gets freed, and then literally the next episode he shows up with a whole army of Jotuns, and it's like, yes, I told your stories to all of them, and we all came here. How'd you get here so damn fast? How did you even get into the Vanir realm? The one character said you can't enter the Vanir realm unless you earn it, but apparently you can just bring a whole army in here. What the hell? That makes no sense at all. And you did it in fucking record time. You just went all over the realms telling all these stories and got all these people together and brought them all to Vanaheim in 20 minutes? How did you do that? It makes no sense at all. No sense. There's this character who is so incredibly obviously Odin, who then gets revealed to be Odin, and I was like, oh, what a surprise. The guy wearing a hood and missing an eye turned out to be Odin. But there is something really cool they do with Odin. They actually make Odin really powerful and intimidating and cool, and in ways that tie into his story. There's the scene where he splits into 3 versions of himself, and it's Odin the warrior, Odin the traveler, and Odin the wise, and it's so cool. Odin the warrior has the gear that he's typically depicted with. Odin the traveler has the hood that he's said to have when he travels the world. Odin the wise has, you can tell, eye freshly missing, and he's wearing a noose, which is like the ways he became wise. It's really, really well done. That was one of my favorite parts of the show, was seeing what they did with Odin. Really liked it. During the final battle, 2 different characters get stabbed in the leg and act like they never got stabbed in the leg. Guess that stuff just doesn't matter. Even though they made a point to say it matters, it immediately does not. The Ulfednar character transforms into a magical werewolf out of frackin' nowhere. No explanation for that, or if there is, I must have missed it. And then suddenly just summons an army of wolves that we did see in a previous episode, but they're just suddenly here now? What the hell happened? No idea how that happened. Another thing I really liked was there's a scene where Odin wants to know the future, and so he makes like a deal with the witch in the show, and she shows him she shows him Ragnarok, but then it keeps going. She shows him Christian influence spreading throughout the Norselands, and then it goes all the way to modern day, and it's like, wow, I did not expect to see that in this show. That's actually really cool to see. So that's another thing I was really happy with. I think that's about all I have to say about the show. I think those are the things that stuck out to me that didn't make sense. I think I went over like some of the inaccuracies versus the really cool accuracies. So I think you can understand why I feel the way I do about the show. But yeah, overall, I did have a good time watching it, especially when there were references to the myths or when action was happening. That stuff was really cool. But there was a lot of plot beats that made no sense and a lot of horniness for no reason. Typical Zack Snyder, but, you know, like I said, Zack Snyder's really good at doing research and making it look cool on the screen, but, you know, his writing is very all over the place. But feel free to tell me what you thought of the show, or if you disagree with anything I said, or if there was a cool Easter egg that I totally missed. I'd love to hear about it. I don't know how to end videos.